familiar faces here at the K, and thank you for taking time out to come and join us for the K. So between us, Marcus and I are going to talk a little bit about what we mean by pushing boundaries. Pushing boundaries is the way in which we describe how Covestro really works. Covestro continuously pushes boundaries, and pushing boundaries is not something that just happens suddenly. Sometimes it can be a sudden breakthrough. Pushing boundaries is something which you have to be pretty resilient to continue with. So I'm going to talk about two examples of pushing boundaries that I actually talked about with many of you 2 K fairs ago. Because sometimes it takes 6 years or even 9 years to get from a concept to a commercial product. But I'd like to talk about pushing boundaries for our customers, for finding solutions to world problems, for society. The way we look at pushing boundaries is to really start to say, well, lots of people told us 2 K fairs ago that our ideas about using carbon dioxide as a raw material, not just to put the bubbles in foam, but to actually make the foam itself, was a ridiculous idea. People said the scientific journalists said, the activation energy of carbon dioxide is way too high, you'll never overcome this, and this will be uneconomic and not good for the environment. It was always a dream, and we wanted to find a way of using carbon dioxide as a source of carbon for many of our carbon-based products. And as an alternative feedstock, working together with our CAT Centre or Green Reaction Centre in Aachen University, we started researching. Originally, the concept was to make polycarbonate out of carbon dioxide. Polymerized carbon dioxide sounds remarkably like polycarbonate. We very rapidly discovered that we could make polyurethanes out of carbon dioxide. First lesson learned. Maybe what you dream about isn't what you invent. Having invented polyurethanes based upon carbon dioxide, we pushed on, and we now have opened our first commercial scale manufacturing plant here in Germany in Dormagen. What do we do next? Because next we start thinking about, well, where else can we use these materials? We've started in the comfort area, the mattresses, first application. Now we're pushing back, and here we're showing in the K our first elastomers. You can actually have a play with some of the elastomers and see if you can break a glass that is protected with the elastomers. And even on to using carbon dioxide to create thermal insulation for construction. Now that I like as a thought. I like innovation in how we think about materials. So the first thought is, we're not talking about carbon dioxide as a bad thing. Traditionally, everybody thinks of carbon dioxide as a bad greenhouse gas. No, we think about carbon dioxide as a valuable source of carbon for making useful materials. And what better materials to make than polyurethane rigid foam insulation from carbon dioxide? That to me is the change in thinking. That's the moment of innovation. Not just the chemistry, not just the scale up of the chemistry, but actually changing your mind about how you think about carbon dioxide. Once it stops being a problem and starts becoming a solution, then I think you've actually made that innovative step. And another example that we talked about at the last K Fair and the K Fair before that, we had an aspiration to fly around the world without any fuel. And we've now done it. That has now been achieved. I'm ticking off the boxes that I've been promising for the last 2 K fairs in a row. These are the things we have actually delivered and achieved. That's what pushing boundaries is about. To fly around the world without a single drop of fuel in a piloted aircraft with a human being in it, right the way around the world, showing hundreds and thousands of school kids around the world what is possible with today's technology. Not tomorrow's technology, this is today's technology. And the 2 pilots, the Swiss pioneers Bertrand Piccard and André Rochebourg, have achieved their dream of flying around the world, and we have helped them achieve that dream using our insulation materials, for example, because the cockpit has no heating or cooling, but the outside air temperature goes from plus to minus 40 degrees. as you fly around the world at altitudes between 5,000 and 30,000 feet. So the challenge is, how do you keep the pilot at a constant temperature when the outside temperature is changing so dramatically? The answer is polyurethane insulation, and on this stand here at this K Fair, you won't find solar impulse. That has been done. What you will find is the application of that insulation into a real refrigeration system, which now meets A Triple Star Plus certification. And finally, you'll see films that were very important in solar impulse, but even more important for our customers in the electronics industry and in the automotive industry to enable new effects, new display technology, polycarbonate sheets that offer new barriers like these. This is what you can do architecturally with our materials. Things that people have not believed possible in the past are now possible. That's what pushing boundaries is about. And I'm next going to hand over to Marcus, who's going to explain a little bit more about how we think about innovation and how we continue to push back boundaries. Marcus.
Exactly 49 years ago, 1967, that time Bayer launched the K67. It was the world's first full plastic car. By the way, this car is still in use nowadays. It's registered, it's driving, it's running, and it's a very high pleasure to me to introduce today the Covestro K2016 concept. To give you a brief overview, we brought here 40% scale model to the show to demonstrate and illustrate basically how the overall design of the car and the features are, since, as you can see in real life, from the front and the rear of the car, it's a quite sizable SUV, so the total car itself would be too large. So this gives you the overview and the technical details and the technology, which is real life technology, which I will demonstrate in a moment later on, is built into that car, and we will discuss this. So why did we bring that car? First of all, it's an electric car, which addresses the global trend, the trend for environmental friendliness, emission issues, CO2 emissions, which the overall automotive industry faces globally.